Everyone's a winner. It's Hot Chocolate. Nick Coffer here on BBC Three Counties Radio, edging towards 20 to 1. As you reach the later years of your life, it's normal to feel a sense of nostalgia and want to remember where you've come from. This is something that Richard Blackshire can relate to. Richard from Hemel Hempstead always wanted to write a book, but having dyslexia, he found it difficult to do until he had more time after retiring. He's written Newtown, Naughty Boy. It's an account of what it was like growing up in Hemel Hempstead. And it's a very vivid account, Richard. It really does bring to life a new town, the new town, in a fairly tricky post-war period. First interesting factoid, though, you are the, great grandson of John Bunyan.
That's right.
Did I get the right number of greats?
I think it's 8 greats in there, Nick. Yes, I think that's about right. But yes, it's been verified. The museum at Bedford has verified that with us, and yes, that's absolutely right.
You always had a suspicion, but it wasn't until you did your family tree that you realised
right.
how
My
close.
brother Robert did the research back in the 60s, and the family ties were quite easy to find. And there's a book all about John Bunyan, and his family tree is actually detailed in this book. And my brother found it easy to actually tie in where the family tree finished for John Bunyan and where ours started. So yes, I've got a very famous 8 great grandfather.
Great to the power of 8 grandfather.
Right.
And family is right at the heart of your book. You talk a lot about your own parents, your siblings as well. Well, when you look at why someone writes a labour of love like this, and it is a labour of love because it's upwards of 400 pages long, the question is often why. And I really loved your notion of a time capsule that you talk about very early on in the book.
That's right, yes. I wanted to kind of leave a legacy behind. I don't have any children to pass on this information, if you like, about the family history and about what I got up to as a youngster. So I had this compulsion really to express it in words. I wanted to write a book, and this notion was going around in my head for many years, and it wasn't until someone contacted me about another chap that I was at school with in at the junior stage, Reg Stickins, who's written a book, and I think you guys have interviewed him here.
That rings a bell, yeah.
That's right, a Northern Soul book called Searching for Soul.
Yeah.
I'd read his book, and I was so impressed with his style and what he wrote about, and as part of his book he stated that he also had dyslexia.
Yeah.
And to a greater depth than I have, but he really struggled at school with reading and writing, and I was so taken with this that this gave me the push, if you like, to do something about writing this book.
Because you say in the book, I mean, talking of your dyslexia, that you were at school, you got moved to another class, a class of only 15 children, and you didn't really know why, but you kind of suspected it meant there was something not quite right. And at the time, dyslexia wasn't on the radar, was it?
That's right. I mean, there wasn't any label that was put for this special class, and as you say, dyslexia, I don't think was the term hadn't actually come about at that stage, but it was quite clear from the chaps in the class that we were kind of a special, what you'd call special needs today.
But you were very bright. You were very bright, judging by the stories you tell.
Right.
You understood circuitry and wiring and all sorts of things from a young age.
That's right. And I think sometimes people with difficulties, special needs difficulties, sometimes have another side to them, and perhaps that was true for myself, because I was interested even at an early age in electronics, and I used to build circuits and bring them into school and show people, and the teachers didn't really know how to deal with this. They really found this quite bizarre that an 8-year-old should be into batteries and wires and light bulbs and things like that,
while at the same time clearly struggling to read.
That's right.
You introduce your mum and dad very early on in the book. They both had significant traumas to overcome. Your mum had cancer at a young age.
That's
she
right.
didn't die from it at 36, but she was told that she would have to live with the consequences of it. It was almost like a sort of Damocles over her head.
That's right. Yes.
And your dad was involved in a horrific train crash which killed 112 people. How did these events impact on your own upbringing?
I think that there was subconsciously something going on there for me at the time. I mean, my father's the train crash happened in 1952, so it was a couple of years before I was born. But certainly there was some rumblings on after that during my sort of my younger years of being a toddler. I kind of understood that there was something that had happened to my father that had kind of shaken him quite considerably.
He was shell-shocked.
He was shell-shocked, yes, that's right. And again, at that particular time, there wasn't anything that dealt with that side of things. If there was a horrific tragedy like that, and it was kind of brushed under the carpet, and you just had to get on with stuff.
And similar for your mum, because she had a breakdown, didn't she?
That's right. Yes, through the cancer that she had, breast cancer, she had to have a major operation for that, a mastectomy, and then she was told that she had glaucoma at a very early age, and that was just too much for her. And she struggled all her life with anxiety problems and just struggling with just normal tasks really. But she lived into her 80s. I mean, she kind of pushed through it and was obviously a very, very resilient person. Yeah.
JVS was talking the other day about bored teenagers in Olney, and they've got nothing to do there. And
Right.
reading your book, you paint a picture of having to find your own entertainment from a young age. Ting, Tang, Tommy.
That's right.
Peek behind the curtain, 1, 2, 3.
Right.
You had your
that's
games.
Right. Yes, we had to make our own entertainment. I mean, going back to those times, there wasn't daytime TV as we have today. You had to make your own entertainment, and that was usually outside.
There was barely daytime radio, in fairness.
That's right. Yes, radio had barely got off the ground as far as what we know today. The BBC channels were there, but they were playing quite old music, really. Music really that had been played during the war years. There was no pop music until much later on. So no entertainment in indoors at all.
What is Ting Tang Tommy?
Well, Ting Tang Tommy is a version of hide and seek, I suppose. I'm sure if people you can look it up on the web if you want the instructions. But it's a way of entertaining yourself in the street by all going away and hiding, and a seeker then comes to try and find you.
And peek behind the curtain, judging by your description in the book, sounded a bit like What's the Time, Mr. Wolf, as in you just have to sort of trickle very, very slowly towards.
And you had to kind of stand like statues, and if the person calling the peek behind the curtain saw you, then you were out then, basically.
You also liked to light fires. You had a penchant for knives.
Yes.
Not in the way that we would necessarily fear today, though.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I explain in the book that everybody then had a penknife in their pocket for whittling sticks and just making things, and it was all very, very boyish, and there wasn't anything nasty as far as that was concerned. It wasn't used as a weapon or anything like that. We were just boys just playing in the bushes and the woods and what have you, and just whittling wood away and with our pen knives. So
another passion you had was for guns as well.
That's right.
Talking about the way times change. You like to go shooting. You went to an area which was to become Shendish Golf Course.
That's right.
Wasn't it?
Yes. I mean, that's a bit further out from Hemel Hempstead. It was a bit of a mile walk from Hemel, but that's where we used to go and play with our air rifles, and that's still a passion of mine. Actually, I still shoot today at Lee Valley in Hertford. I'm there every Saturday, probably at a competition or something like that, shooting away. So my passion for shooting air rifles has remained with me.
Knives, guns, and fire starter.
That's right.
Wow!
Yes.
Put that in a modern context, it would have a whole
That's
different
right.
end to it. You made your way through school, and as you entered your adolescent years, you developed a passion for something I fell in love with at exactly the same age. Although, in fairness, probably about 20 or 30 years later, was for the radio.
Yes.
You developed a real passion for the radio, the pirate radios.
That's right. Yes. I mean, as soon as the transistor was invented, this enabled people to have a transistor radio. This was something that was portable, and this was really the device that really pushed open the pop music era, really, because it enabled people to listen to music on the move if they wanted. Before that time, you had to listen to a radio that was plugged in, and that usually meant in your living room at home. Yeah. So for us youngsters, we had a small transistor radio, and we could listen to radio under the bedclothes if we wanted to at night. And,
did you listen to the gentleman who's in the studio next door to us right now recording his programme?
Tony Blackburn's next door. I can see him, and certainly he was one of the people that I'd be listening to. Yes, certainly. Yes.
Well, this is a surreal moment for you, having written the book about listening to pirate radio, to be in a studio on the radio talking about your book with Tony Blackburn.
With Tony next door, yeah.
We couldn't have planned it better if we tried.
No, you couldn't.
And we did indeed plan it. The only reason Tony's there is so that we could mention him in the
context.
context.
Right, he's come in specially then, Nick.
Just for today, to talk about your love of radio. You also had another love, and that was music. You were a frequent visitor to Top Rank in Watford, and indeed the California Ballroom in Dunstable. We'll talk about that next. It's BBC Three Count. It should be tasty, to say the least. So, Richard, we're talking about your life growing up in Hampstead that you've documented in your book. I'll give full details of the book shortly. But you spend a lot of the book talking about music and going out.
That's right, yes.
Going out for a bang was a phrase I wasn't aware of until reading the book.
That's right. I think one of my friends kind of constantly came up with that term.
I think it's fairly obvious what we're referring to.
I think so, Nick.
And you use several G's when referring to that particular bang.
That's right.
The way
it needs
you say
to be elongated, emphasised. Yes.
So off you went with your mates, looking for a quote-unquote bang. But you went to Top Rank in Watford. Now, I was wondering where that was, and I thought it might be the old cinema building at the bottom near Vicarage Road, but I've had information that it may be towards the top end of the high street.
It's at the top end. I'm not sure what it is now, but yes, it's at the top end of the high street. It later became Bailey's. I'm not sure if it is still a nightclub there now, but yes, it was a cinema in its early days, and then it became the Top Rank suite, and that's where all the guys and girls went on a Saturday night. For the music, of course, but also
for the music,
for other things as well.
But things were to change dramatically for you when the Cali opened, because with your love of pirate radio, with your love of music, I mean, you list in the book all the bands and artists you saw, and I haven't counted them, but I've got them all here. I would say there's at least 40. You saw the 3 Degrees, you saw Jimmy Cliff, you saw the Stylistics, you saw Casey and the Sunshine Band, Shawaddy Waddy, and you even list how much the ticket price were. They cost you between 50p and £1.50. Well, the most expensive was £2.50. Was the Four Tops.
That's right.
What did you love about the Cali?
Well, it was a place that was near to Hemel. It was the music mecca. It was I think really. It was the best place probably in the south of England, really, outside of London. There was nothing else like it. Somewhere that you could go and listen to music, and obviously there was a disco on there. But the live music, the live bands that were coming there from America, the black soul bands, absolutely fantastic. And you just couldn't beat it. There wasn't anywhere else that could really command that sort of audience, really.
Who was or were Osibisa?
I understand that they were a black African band that were kind of had a very distinctive sound to them. They I can't describe it any more than that, but they were a large band, and they played this certain type of funky music, but it kind of had an African slant to it.
As you look out of the window here, over Tony Blackburn's head, into Grove Park and into that neck of the woods where you would have enjoyed going to the Cali, where you worked as well, working for a TV repair company just down the road. Do you miss those days?
Yes, I mean, Dunstable really does have a kind of... I have a special place for Dunstable in my heart, really, because the Cali was here. That's where I was in the evenings on a weekend. And, of course, I worked here. I worked at Weatherheads in the High Street. It's now the Oxfam shop. But I enjoyed my days here, and some people may even remember me as the TV engineer that came round to their houses.
We should have asked this. Do you remember Richard as the local Dunstable TV engineer? You've got about 1 minute to call 03459 455 555. You end the book in your early 20s. Why did you stop there? How old are you now?
I am 60. I've just reached 60.
Why did you stop in your early 20s?
I had to stop somewhere, Nick. It was getting a long book. I'd written over 130,000 words. I had to cut it off somewhere, and even with that amount of words, I had to restrict it in some way. So I had to come to some point where I cut off, and that was just before I got married.
I have no doubt at all that if you were born and brought up in and around Hemel Hempstead in the late 1940s, the early 1950s, all the way through to the 1960s, if you played in Hemel, if you went to school in Hemel, if you went out in Watford at top rank, if you came up to dance ball to the Cali, all of those cultural references, all of those historical references are in this book, and you will find lots in it that you will very much identify with. It's called Newtown, Naughty Boy, growing up in the 50s, 60s and 70s, written by Richard Blackshire. You can find it on Amazon, where it will cost you £12.
£12 for the book, and it's also available on download Kindle.
Which will be much less.
Absolutely, yes.
I enjoyed it, and it's a huge achievement, not least because of your dyslexia, to have put this all down into 130,000 words and written your story for, to use your term, your time capsule, which will now forever be in this book. And I'm sure many of my listeners will take the opportunity to enjoy it as well.
Well, thank you, Nick. Thank you for having me today.
It's been a pleasure. There's Richard Blackshire from Hemel Hempstead, overcoming his dyslexia to write down his life memoirs. And I say, any of you that live in and around Hemel Hempstead, grew up in and around Hemel Hempstead, there's loads in there for you to enjoy. It's BBC Three Counties Radio. Next door is Richard Blackshire gets to meet his radio hero, Tony Blackburn. Tony, who is, of course, officially the nicest person in the whole of radio. Richard looking very, very proud to meet Tony Blackburn next door. He's recording his Sunday programme as we speak.